A child who is different from other children often experiences agonizing verbal abuse. While it's sometimes difficult to deal with the difference, it doesn't have to become a disability. So at 17 years old, one young man who had insults hurled at him on the playing field stepped forward to lead by example and light the way for others who are different.
So I was born without my left hand. It was a complete surprise to my parents. It's kind of funny, out of all the concerns, whenever I was born this way, the main concern for my grandpa was, how's he gonna tie his shoes? That's all he was thinking, is like, how's he gonna tie his shoes? Like, my dad was thinking, how am I gonna teach him how to play sports? And thankfully I had a doctor who had experienced other limb different athletes out at Louisville Kleinert Clinic. And he said, your son's gonna show you, just let him do it and he's going to show you. And I grew up with a love of sports and a love of the outdoors. Because I was born differently, people placed perception on what I was capable of growing up, and they always felt like I wasn't going to be good enough to compete with my peers. I was bullied from the time I was 4 until I was about 14 years old, and even all the way up to 18 because of fans in other towns and stuff like that when it comes to sports. When I was 14 years old, I looked at myself in the mirror and I said, yo, this is how God made you. If you can't accept that, then no one else can accept you. This is the hand you're dealt. Move forward. I was able to make my dreams come true of playing college baseball, and because of my sports stories started getting out about me. I actually had a mentor who looked like me growing up, who was a legend in our hometown for football. And so, I just had a relationship where I had this mentor who looked like me growing up, who could help me tie my shoes, who would listen to me about bullies, who could help give me advice, in both life and in sport. And I just remember how powerful that was. And then I had Jim Abbott. I got to watch him play in the major leagues and sit on my dad's lap in the recliner and just watch that, and just basically enveloped my passion for sport even more, because I saw somebody who looked like me playing at that high level, which gave me the confidence that I could do it too. I was exposed to every sport possible, given the opportunity to fail as much as possible so that I can learn and grow. This vision pops in my head of a camp where kids get to learn from coaches who look like them to compete in mainstream organized sports, so that the first coach that they ever get to have is a limb different coach, someone who looks like them. And then that coach has the expertise that they can guide these kids throughout the rest of their life and give them steps ahead of where they were to push these kids beyond their expectations. And my mom said the most powerful statement that I've heard in my entire life. She said, Sam, I would have driven you to you on a $10 bill across the country to get you in front of you whenever you were cut from your 6th, 7th, and 8th grade baseball team. And so we started the process of becoming a 501c3 going into my senior year of high school. I'm a small town kid. I'm from a town of 6,500 people and live out in the middle of the country, drive 15 minutes to school every day. And that just shows you how powerful God is and what he can do if you listen to him. And so whenever we were coming up with a name for the camp, first off, I've called this my nub my entire life. And it was always my nub. It never changed. I don't know where that came from. It was just like, that was it. It was my nub. And then ability is the opposite of disability. So Nubability, and that's where that name came from. What we do is we teach these kids that foundational experience. If you think about a Little League baseball game for the first time, coach has both hands, both feet. Most of the teammates have both hands, both feet. So immediately that kid's seeing it at a disadvantage. So we take kids as early as 4, and we go all the way up to 17. 4 because that's the year before they compete in Little League sports. So we give them that advantage. They learned how to play for the first time from a coach who looks like them, who can show them a glove transfer, who can show them how to split their legs to do a ground ball if they're lower limb different. Different drills that if a Little League coach is watching and trying to figure out, they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. We give them that advantage. And then as they get older, we have the ability to push them into the college ranks if they want to go play. The one thing I hated about growing up being the limb different kid was all the news stories on me that were saying the one-handed pitcher, the pitcher missing one hand. It's like, no, talk about the pitcher who won. I didn't get an article written about me until my last year of college baseball that said nothing about my limb difference. And that's when I was like, I did it. To me, that was like the culmination of all my efforts. That's everything I looked forward to, was just not reading the one-handed pitcher. Because I feel like no matter where we're at in our life, anybody, no matter what their circumstances is, can be the hardest worker in the room if they choose to. And that was my goal. Every day it's adapt and overcome.
Sam's only missed one of the dozens of Nubability camps and clinics, and that was only because his son was born the week before a camp. He's written about his journey in a book called Game Changer: How to Thrive When Life Doesn't Go According to Plan. And he's been named an Amazon best-selling author. You can find out more about his inspirational words on our website, wildsidetv.com. Let us also take the opportunity to point out that while many limb-different children don't know anyone else like them, there are those who do. Sam Rudloff, the Nubability Program Director, grew up in a family where all the children are limb-different.
I'm actually adopted, so I'm one of 3 other siblings. All of us are limb-different, actually. So after my mom found out she couldn't have kids, they found a news article about adopting kids from Korea, and they adopted my brother Jim, who is missing his foot. Then Jim wanted a brother, so along came me, and I was born with only one hand. And then my mom wanted a daughter, so then came along Janie, who is missing half her forearm down, and then she didn't want her to be alone, so we adopted Julie, who has a arm like me, but a pinky and a thumb right next to each other. And you know, we all have our special little things, but I was the wild card that just loved doing sports.
Tennessee's Wild Side has been a presentation of the Jackson Foundation in association with Rockwater TV.